You're listening to the Huddle Up Podcast with Chad Jensen and Zack Kelberman. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com and sound off. And now it's time to drop some knowledge.
We're getting the check marks coming in now, the final one. And here we go, letting it breathe. Zack, lead us off real quickly.
Well, this is the Huddle Up Podcast. This is the Thursday, July 15th edition. As you can see, don't freak out. Don't X out of your screens. Don't rub your eyes. I am on the left side. I am hosting. Chad Jensen's out today. He's traveling back. I think he's driving back. John not driving too. So he's on the road today. And I have my handy-dandy fill-in, John Kronenberg, a.k.a. Buona Beast, the producer behind the boards. Your favorite producer is filling in for me tonight. Going to be an interesting podcast, John.
Yes.
First things first, though. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's been it was great news when I was able to learn I'm coming on again tonight, be able to speak with all of you, especially on the mailbag where we can get in your questions. Because, I haven't been able to speak about things outside, mostly kind of Rodgers or doing a top five. So I really do want to get to everyone's questions here, maybe be able to speak on some different topics that I just haven't had the opportunity to. So I'm excited for tonight.
I was going to say it's the first time with me for a while as well because you held it down when I was on vacation last week with Chad. So in the matter of a week, our viewers have gone from Chad and I to you and Chad to me and Chad to me and you. It's a whirlwind on the Huddle Up Podcast. But we see some support already. Dave Glassman jumping in, saying Zack and John, what a pairing. Mike Evans says, hello, Zack and Beast. So we're trying different things, guys. It's the off season. We're almost at training camp. And like I said, John's filling in right now for Chad. We have so much we want to get to today, though, on a kind of a slower news day, but we have one announcement right off the bat, John, that we both want to make. I'll let you handle that to start.
Yeah, I wanted to handle this because it was a little bit near and dear to me. I was able to speak with our guest who's going to be on the 19th. Let's bring him on. It'd be Austin Schlotman. A lot of you may hear Schlotman, but it's actually Schlotman. He's coming on the show July 19th, so that's next Monday, with the Huddle Up crew. It's going to be a great time. He loves to talk. He'll talk everything from football to life, really anything. If you are a Twitcher and you have some time, follow him at Schlotty71, I believe, as well. You can ask him any questions. This guy is an open book, which is really just a fresh kind of air that you get with him. He'll be open with you, and on top of that, look at that. Doesn't that look like a guy you want to speak with? He'll be a fantastic guest that we're going to have on July 19th. I'm very excited. I think, if you had a good time with Graham Glasgow, I think this time we learned a little bit more from that. You're going to have even better time. So we're getting Broncos on to the Huddle Up Podcast. It's a great feeling. And I know about yourself, but you're going to be doing the interview, so it's going to be exciting for you as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, John, I want to give you all the credit in the world because you nailed down Schlotman, correct? I don't want
to correct.
Schlotman. Okay, I got to train my brain and not say Schlotman. But like as you nailed down Graham Glasgow, you brought Schlotman on. I see I'm already doing it. Schlotman, let me get out of the way now on the show. But John, great job. We can't wait to talk to him. We want to pick his brain. And right before training camp as well, July 19th is literally, days before the Broncos hit Dove Valley to begin training camp. And Schlotman is pushing for a pretty significant role along the Broncos offensive line. Can't wait to pick his brain, but nice job with that, John. And again, guys, Monday, July 19th, 8 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Mountain, the Huddle Up Podcast. Austin Schlotman joins the show. Can't wait to talk to him. But we're going to yes, John.
I wanted to say real quick, You know what? He knows that people get his name wrong. He understands that. In fact, his nickname he goes by is Schlotty. So, he almost goes with the pairing of it being Schlotman versus Schlotman. So I understand how people get confused, and it's okay. It's okay. It's Schlotman, but it doesn't matter. If we get it wrong a few times, believe me, he won't notice.
I'm sure you're like me, John. All growing up, people have been butchering both my first and last name. It's not that hard. I've heard, different variations of spelling on Zack, and Kelberman is not that hard to pronounce, but I've heard Kleeblerman, Kyblerman. I'm sure Kronenberg's not much easier as well. So I definitely understand where Schlotman's coming from there, but we're excited for that. We see you guys in the comments. What we're going to do tonight, real quick, guys, is catch up on the Super Chats before we hop into the matters of business. as you can guys tell from the title of the podcast, we have sort of an Aaron Rodgers update coming out of Green Bay that Chad and I, and also John, when he's been on here, have kind of hinted at, that maybe the Broncos don't have a chance because it's out of their control. And we'll explain what we mean by that in just a bit. But we want to hop on some of these supers. I'm just scrolling through until I can find them. Let's
get the first one who came in here early, Christian De Jesus. Appreciate that $5 super. It means a lot to us. You were in here, had to be 4:22. So you really were in here early. Appreciate that. And his question, again, a $5 super. If Fangio got fired after the season, do you think Brian Daboll will be at the top of Peyton's wish list? Your thoughts on the Bills offensive coordinator possibly stepping in for Fangio and bringing in a new era, completely switching away from defense to offense?
That's kind of the crux of my point I want to make here. I would prefer Brian Daboll, but I wouldn't shed tears if it was Kellen Moore, if it was Greg Roman, if it was, a Mike LaFleur out there in New York. Now, the point being is, if the Broncos, or when the Broncos, depending on how you feel about Vic Fangio, if they fire Fangio, they have to go with an offensive mind. They went against the grain on both counts when they hired Fangio, an older coach and a defensive-minded coach. They need a younger guy with an offensive mind. And Brian Daboll, the job he's done with Josh Allen in Buffalo, I think, though, teams around the NFL, John, kind of want to see if last year was a flash in the pan, or was it the what Josh Allen really is. If he can be anywhere near what he was last year, Brian Daboll will have suitors banging down his door. And I would hope the Broncos, if they fire Fangio, would be among the interested.
Yeah, you got to make sure if last season was an aberration kind of deal. Was it just a one-year fluke? He's been around the league for quite some time.
Yeah.
I believe he's won 5 rings actually in his time, with going back and forth to the Patriots. So kind of interesting there. But he's a name I would love for the Broncos to at least have on that wish list, be looking towards. At the same time, I'm not writing Fangio off yet. It's just not something I'm doing right now. I think the Broncos can definitely make it into the playoffs still. There's still a lot of opportunity for Locke or Bridgewater, whoever that quarterback will be. So while I understand where you're coming from, this is the kind of coaches I would like, as you were saying, the ones you were stating. And Brian Daboll, like you said, even though he's had small time jobs where it's been a year here and there as the offensive coordinator, I think now he's starting to get an understanding of it and developing just like players do.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not writing off Vic Fangio, but John, we have to be honest with each other here. They have no excuses this year. In his 3rd year now, anything short than maybe a 9-8 record or a playoff berth, it would probably mean that George Paton gets to pick his own head coach because he was saddled with a holdover. That's a very rare pairing. Usually, like in Atlanta, they hired Terry Fontenot as GM, and he got to hire the head coach, or he was hired with him, and Arthur Smith. Vic Fangio was foisted upon George Paton this year, and pretty much with the understanding, listen, Vic, we believe in you still. You have a great defensive mind, but you got to get the most out of this roster. We've tailored it to your liking, especially in the secondary. And I don't know how George Paton and Joe Ellis could justify bringing back Vic Fangio for next season. So I'm not writing him off, but we have to be realistic that likely the John Elway passing on Kyle Shanahan, passing on Sean McVay, passing on the Nagys and the Frank Reichs of the world, that's caught up to them. In both this cycle and the last cycle with Vic Fangio, maybe in 2022 they'll have a chance to remedy that, and I would hope that Daboll, Kellen Moore, Greg Roman, etc. are atop that list.
Those names get me so excited. I hope you don't mind me grabbing Kathy really quick here.
Not at all.
Just wanted to grab her. This one caught my eye a little bit. Locke needs to be on a different team. Broncos are not a good fit for him. He will be like Ryan Tannehill. Watch. What are your just quick thoughts? Because I know we're trying to get to a lot of supers tonight real quickly. This is the mailbag. But what are your thoughts on if Locke were to go to a different team, could he see different success because of that new placement like Tannehill had?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you said that, guys. If you have any questions, tonight is the Mile High Mailbag. That doesn't change no matter who's on the podcast. So if you have any questions, be sure to fire them into the comments and we'll pick through them. Let me just throw a rhetorical out at you, John. What is the reason that Tannehill took off? Was it just his supporting cast in Tennessee, or was it something deeper than that? They finally had a coordinator in Arthur Smith, and he's credited him a ton, Tannehill, for his development that finally unlocked his potential. No pun intended there. And I could see the same thing happening to Drew Lock. Let's say if he goes to, just hypothetically, if he went to the Niners, if he went to the Rams, if he went to, God, even the Colts, let's say, if he had a better offensive coach that can mold him, Dallas with Kellen Moore. I mean, Dayball in Buffalo, if he had a mind that more meshes with his skill set and his abilities in the year 2021, I think he would have a better playing career. I think his arm would be trained to take advantage of his talents and hide his blemishes. And we saw some of that, John, in 2019 when the Broncos had a coordinator in Scangarello who was younger, who was more creative, who took more chances, whose play calling was more in tune with a quarterback like Drew Lock. Last year, they had a coordinator in Pat Shurmur, and they still do, unfortunately, whose play calling is more in line with Case Keenum or old school Alex Smith, or someone from years past. That's not what Drew Lock is. So maybe a change of scenery is what Drew needs if and only if he bombs out in Denver this year. But I'm still holding true to the belief you can coach the mistakes out of him and you can heighten his abilities, of which there are many. He's put them on display. I think coaching is the thing that can do that. And unfortunately, at least in my opinion, I don't think the Broncos have those horses on the coaching staff.
I hate to be just saying the same thing. I agree with you 100% there. If Locke can survive one more year, make it through this season, prove that he still has enough to invest in and have the new coach come in, let's say, hypothetically Fangio's gone, with a new staff, essentially a new fit for him, a new team, I think he could do fantastic. So if it's the Ryan Tannehill kind of, you have to go to a different team, or if the Broncos just change enough internally because of coaching, things along those lines, no matter what, a new kind of scenery could be very beneficial for Locke.
Yeah, for sure. I did want to get this from sorry, John, from Sam Bam. Sam Bam, $10 super. Appreciate you. You're quickly rising up the list. Chad and I talked about this actually earlier today of the super chat superstars. Thank you, Sam, for that. He says, "Good evening, Broncos country. 8 Thursdays till the first regular season game. 8 Thursdays. We are 8 weeks away from week 1. It goes so fast, and I can't wait. I wonder if Fangio will have named the starting quarterback at that point, and I wonder if the Rodgers drama will be over. Go Broncos." Yeah, guys, I mean, even Peyton Manning said it the other day. It's a few weeks out until training camp. The Broncos and other teams have to know who their quarterbacks are. And it's kind of the same point I was making. They can't drag this out till week 1, till week 8 before the trade deadline. They want to have their quarterback in place now. They can't play any games with that position. So if it's going to be Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, it's going to be Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. There is going to reach a point here where a decision has to be made. And that point might very well may be July 28th when the Packers start training camp and the Broncos start training camp. So no, I think by the time week 1 rolls around and the Broncos are getting ready to take on the Giants at MetLife, we will have a firm grasp on who the Broncos starting quarterback is and where Rodgers is. And spoiler alert, probably in Green Bay.
Yeah, I think a few days after the 28th, as you were suggesting, maybe that's kind of the deadline for me, at least. Give them a few more days. It's not going to make a huge difference, though, those extra days. It's just going to be everyone finally up saying, hey, we're sure we can't make this deal happen. All right, the deal is not happening. You go off and worry about Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. We'll beat the Packers. We're going to worry about Aaron Rodgers and trying to figure out a way to get him into camp and figure out what we're going to do with Love as well at the same time. So I when it comes to me, I think like exactly what you were saying. The drama is going to end pretty soon. So I'm excited about that.
I am as well. And BNS hopping in, $2 super. Thank you so much, BNS. He says, shooting aloha your way, Priest and Beast, hashtag all Pro Bowls. Thank you, BNS. And John, did you see Taylor Moton's deal out in Carolina, the tackle?
I didn't see the full deal, the amount of money, but I saw it could have been close to what Bowles got.
It was a little more. I think it was 72 and Bowles got 68. He got a few more million guaranteed. And let me tell you guys, if Bowles continues on, and BNS, you're going to love what I'm about to say. If Bowles continues on at his trajectory that he was on last year, his contract which looked like the Broncos may have overpaid just a little bit. Yeah, it's going to look like a steal considering what tackles like Taylor Moton now are getting out in Carolina. So BNS, I hope you heard about that, and we appreciate you tuning in and contributing as you always do. I see Willie, though, your alter ego in the shop with Willie. $2 super. Thank you.
Hey, in the house, in the shop with Willie, $2 super. My man, John, don't call him in.
Don't call him a fill-in.
Though. Yes,
he's a co-host.
I'm a co-host. Yes, I'll be doing Saturday as well with Luke. So I am starting to come out a little bit more, do more, different discussions, thinking about something down in the future for as well as for YouTube. So we're thinking about it.
That's right, guys. If you like John, be sure to tune in Saturday night. It's this Saturday, right, John, for Mile High Insiders, filling in alongside Luke Patterson. And yeah, we have a nickname from Sam Bam. We're the Zeast. Zack and the Beast. So it could be worse. I've been called worse in my life. What else do we got here? Willie jumping in again. Thank you so much, Willie. $2 super. Can we ignore the Rodgers update, please? Unfortunately, Willie, we really can't do that. We're going to get to that in just a bit. We'll promise we won't take too much of our time on it. We want to get some more questions and more interaction, but there was a tangible A-Rod report. This is not Bleacher Report speculating. This is not Pro Football Focus. This wasn't aggregation. This was a tangible report that we have to discuss, but hang in there. You'll be okay.
Let's get to. You want to get to the matters? Oh,
wow. I want to just clear the super. Okay. I saw Michaela and saw the red and the Duchess hopping in as she always wants to do. Michaela, Chad plus Zach plus Beast equals Hall of Fame pod. Well, Michaela plus HUP equals GOAT, and that's what you are, Michaela. You are the GOAT. You are the greatest. Thank you so much for your continued support, and it was great having you on. We look forward to seeing you and everyone else out there, guys. Week 3 again. It's getting closer now. I mean, Week 3 is September 26th. Huddle Up Pod meet and greet outside the stadium for the Broncos home opener against the Jets. John's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Chad's going to be there. Some of the crew's going to be there. Fun times. Look forward to seeing each and every one of you.
I think that means 11 weeks away because wasn't it 8 weeks till football? So we got 11 weeks.
I don't math, so I'll take your word for it. But that's
so right now, at least on my level of math, we're at 11 weeks from that. So that's going to be fantastic. Michaela, always appreciate talking to you, and thank you so much. I appreciate you including me in the trio.
Thank you, Michaela. I want to get to the matters of business lightning quick, as Chad Jensen would say. Be sure, guys, if you haven't already, to follow the Huddle Up Pod on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod. You can follow the main account at Mile High Huddle. You can follow John on Twitter, as you can see, at John KMHH. You can follow myself, as you see on your screen, at Kelberman NFL. If you haven't already, guys, go to Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Like the page, follow the page, stay up to date with the podcast. Also, Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Big blue button, John. Can't miss it, right in the middle of your screen. Click that, subscribe. I think it's $5 a month. You get access immediately to 3 exclusive shows right off the bat. You got Kelberman's Corner, Broncos Book Club, and Trickle Zone. We have more coming on the way. And when I say more, I mean, can never do that the right way. I mean, that guy right there. So stay tuned for that, guys. Check it out. Also, huddleuppod.com and get your swag on. Get yourself a hat, get yourself a shirt, get yourself whatever you guys want. I promise it's on that site. We appreciate your patronage there. And though, if you can't do any of those things, I completely understand. I really, really do. I just ask you 3 things that take 2 seconds, completely free, and would help us immensely. That's subscribe, like, and share each and every video you see on the Mile High Huddle YouTube page. Like I said, it helps us grow and reach Broncos fans just like you that are wandering without a podcast home. Let's be that home, John. Let's be that roof that people can feel safe under. But with that being said, I want to get to a few more. Let me take down that banner. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Let me get to, I saw Shadow Jacker, $5 super. Thank you so
Shadow
much.
Jacker. It's been a little bit of time. Great to see you. Go ahead and take this, Zach.
I just called him Shatter, so we're off to a good start. Hey, fellas in chat, what's the one team on the schedule you're looking forward to defeating? Well, John, I'll serve this over to you in a second, but I think I think Kansas City would be an obvious answer, taking down the Chiefs this year, any divisional rival. I guess maybe to make it non-cheesy as well, I would say week 3 to take down the Jets with us in attendance in the Mile High Huddle meetup. I'm going to say, though, and this is not a cop-out, I'm going to say week 1. And I say that because if the Broncos are going to have a good season, it's going to require to beat teams that they should beat. And there is no reason why, even on the road, They should not be able to beat the Giants in week 1. And I want them, John, to start off with that momentum and maybe stack those wins. They have Jacksonville in week 2, New York in week 3. Those are 3 winnable games, but it all starts in week 1 for confidence sake and for the stat column. So I'm going Giants.
Yeah, those are great points, as you were talking about starting off great with New York Giants week 1, finally getting to the Jets, as you were also talking about going against Wilson. Hopefully that'd be fun for the tailgaters when we come out to that day. For me, I have to go a little bit personal. I want to be, of course I want to beat Kansas City. Of course I have to beat Cleveland. You have to beat the Cleveland Browns for me personally. This is my personal choice. Doesn't have to make any sense. I just do not like the Cleveland Browns.
Tell us why.
Okay, so I was born in Cleveland, so most of my family is from Cleveland. They detest the Broncos. Think about that. You know, they were not fans of the fumble and the drive. So they've been on some bad experiences with the Broncos. Luckily, my parents, we moved to the great state of Colorado when I was 3 months old or so. Basically, so I've always been a Broncos fan, and now they like to rub it into their families' faces that, hey, we're on the Broncos side now and we're winning. So I'd always go and dress in nice Broncos clothes when I'd go to Cleveland and get some booze here and there. So for me, beating the Browns is just such a great feeling. That is a good feeling.
I wasn't expecting that answer. Now I want the Broncos to beat Cleveland as well. I'm on your side with that. So, yeah, we'll mark that down as a W. But great question, Shadow. I'm going to have to give that some more thought as well. That's a really good question that I like taking at this point in the offseason. I see real quick, John, we have a $9.99 super from Seth Harmon. No comment, no question, just a super to support. Thank you so much, Seth. We see you watching on YouTube, so we appreciate you. And,
thank you, Seth. That means a lot, and we'll be on the lookout for anything. I know you usually give us a nice super sticker, so maybe you didn't want to do that with me in the back end, working this way. If so, thank you so much. Again, thank you as always, Seth.
And Edward Keating, as always, every single podcast. I don't want to just spout off Chad Jensen isms, but it's true that it wouldn't be a podcast, the Huddle Up podcast, without Edward Keating jumping in and being supportive. Thank you, Edward. He goes, showing some love. Thanks, Zack and John. Zack with an H. Still, God, guys. K, guys, K. Thanks, Zack and John. Hit that like button. Hashtag DB4L. Hashtag Lock2021. Hashtag Let Them Hate. Hashtag State of Being. Thank you so much, Edward. And Willie. I mean, John. Willie. Again, another super thank you, Willie. I don't care if it was Schefter. We appreciate you. We don't care either. Look who we got here. Deciding to bless us with his presence after coming on the show last night, supporting the show while he was interviewing, and then supporting afterward, interacting. Stu is the man. You are the superstar of the podcast. You are the founding father. You are Zeus for a reason. Thank you, Stu, so much. Great to see you as always. Hope you're doing well tonight. He says, hi, all. Any word on how our tight end group is doing so far? Fant is going to have a big year. John, you know what I saw today on Twitter? I don't know what talking head it was or what stupid offseason list it was. I think it was like top 10 tight ends or something, maybe top 8, whatever. Noah Fant wasn't on there. It's amazing. It's amazing. I know he doesn't have the production to back it up yet, mostly because of his coaching and his quarterbacking, but this guy is a star waiting to happen. And when this coming season, when he bursts onto the scene, everyone's going to be like, oh, I knew it all along. Well, these lists don't dictate that. You left him off for a reason because you don't anticipate him doing anything. Why? The only reason is because he's wearing orange and blue. That is the only reason. You put him on Green Bay or the Ravens, he's a perennial off-season all-star. So that was a little bit of a diatribe. I have to get off my chest real quick. In terms of the tight end room, John, I'll serve this over to you in just a second. It's Noah Fant, a recovering Alberto, and then pretty much that's it. They badly need a blocking tight end. They think they can have this guy coming out, the UDFA, Sean Byer. They signed a guy. What's his name? I always forget his name.
It starts with an S. I can't remember his name as well. Sorry about that. He's kind of a jag, so that's
very much so.
That is the reason. When we were talking a little bit about Fant, I do have to say last year, what an impressive year for a guy who had high ankle sprain, pulling through every single game, trying to make big plays, and then just not seeing the ball when he was really struggling and pushing through that pain. Like, like you would want any player to do. That was the epitome of a strong football player, toughness. And no, the Broncos could not use that to their advantage. He was still open with that high ankle sprain. Means a lot. When those players have those high ankle sprains, you don't understand how much it slows them down completely with how they move laterally, so many different things. So for the tight end room, obviously a healthy Fant, going to mean a lot of bigger things. Alberto, hope to hear him being healthy. Don't expect him to be much, in terms of the, I just don't expect too much from him, as well as you were saying, Byers. He's kind of, I'm assuming, to be the blocking tight end, as well as we'll see what Beck can contribute if he's that fullback tight end or if he's just that fullback.
Yeah, and ask Royce Freeman about high ankle sprains. That they can ruin your career. They can ruin what you're doing. So it's tough to get over. And it sucks, like you said, it's one thing to get over that, to play through it, but then to not get featured, to get ignored by your coordinator, to get no opportunities is so maddening. So the Broncos, the good thing about Pat Shurmur, at least in this situation, is he doesn't use many tight ends. So beyond Fant and Alberto, they don't really need anyone that's an all-star for third string. They have Byer, they have Fort, they have Beck, and they have Saubert. That's his name. Thank you, Sam Bam. Saubert. He's such a jag. I don't even know his name. So after, there's a drop-off for sure. I mean, they don't have Fumagalli, they don't have Jake Butt. There is a drop-off, but they hope that either Byer or Saubert can step up in the number 3 role just as a blocker, like you alluded to.
I got a quick question for you. I hate to go sidebar. Yeah. Were you surprised that Butt and Fumagalli found teams?
That they found teams. Well, not a Fumagalli so much. I mean, he does have a little bit on his resume, but Jake Butt, who did he sign with?
He's a Chicago Bear.
A Bear, that's right. I think there's always going to be someone out there. All it takes is one, obviously. There's always going to be someone out there that's going to gamble on the upside and hope that his knee didn't just go through 4 ACL tears and surgeries. They're always going to gamble on his name. I mean, at Michigan, John, he really was a highly touted prospect. And in the Orange Bowl, if he didn't wreck his knee, he could have been maybe a second-round pick. So I'm not shocked, but I am kind of surprised that the Bears don't see Butt for what he is, and that is, unfortunately, damaged goods.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We got Fernando coming in here. I cannot pronounce your last name. Sorry, forgive me. Chomo Mentes. Thank you so much. Fernando Chomo Mentes.
Hope I didn't butcher that, Fernando.
With a $9.99 super. Will Denver sign anyone else for the interior line? Can I just flat out say, no. There's no reason to. I mean, whoever you're going to bring in is just someone who's going to lose out to one of the superior interior offensive linemen the Broncos have. They have interior offensive linemen that also have versatility, can play center and can play guard. There is no reason to bring anyone else in. If anything, you're just wasting a little bit of guaranteed money if possible, or you're just holding on someone maybe for practice squad later, really thinking down the future, undrafted kind of free agent guy. Just don't see a need, though. There really isn't. What do you think? Is there a need for it?
No, I'm right there with you. And if you sign someone, all you're doing, to add on to your point, is taking reps away from a younger guy, which I literally despise. And the Broncos right now, John, have more interior linemen and linemen overall than they know what to do with. I mean, they have Quinn Miners, who's technically not a starter, and he was drafted fairly high. They have Graham Glasgow coming back. They have Reisner. They have Muti. So that's 4 interior linemen right there. Then you throw in Cushenberry as well. That's 5. I mean, you don't need many more. Right tackle, I mean, they're set there on the edges. They have Bowles, Anderson, Massey, and Fleming, etc. Interior, they have even more than that. So I think, Fernando, they are set for now, and they're going to get the best 5 on the field. And whoever those 5 are remains to be seen.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Let's see if we can find another real quickly. I'm just going to shout out Gilster. Got to jump at the end. So we're just going to go Gilster. Actually, here he gave a super. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Beat those Chiefs. So I assume that's the team you want to beat. If you can make sure you could beat one team, you got to beat those Chiefs, especially, I'm assuming, in Arrowhead. Just assuming. If I'm right, Gilster, let me know because I have a feeling that's how most fans are right now. If you could pick one game where the Broncos would win, beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead.
It's what I predicted last year. I thought the Broncos would split with them, and I had the Broncos victory coming at Arrowhead. It didn't really work out that way. But hopefully this year, Gilster, I think they have as best chances they had the last 5 years. If the offense can step up a little bit more and the defense can play a little bit harder, they can hang with them and maybe even pull off an upset. But, John, Gary Leeds Palmer hopping in.
I just had to say, give him a salute because he's always giving stars and support, and I see it in the back end. I can't today, unfortunately, so some of those superstars aren't going to get noticed. However, I'll look in the back at the end, and maybe we can find a way to reach out to you guys. But Gary Leeds Palmer in here every single day with the superstars. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary. Another person in here always, Andrew, hopping in, $1.99 super. Thank you, Andrew. He goes, my $2 contribution to MHH purchasing the Broncos. We're getting there, slowly but surely. Keep chipping away, Andrew, and we'll make a case for it. I saw a question though, John, tying into that from Clay here. Clay, I'm not even going to try. Clay, $5 super. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And if this is a new name, John, I believe it is. It is.
And we'll get that last name down. Believe me, Chad is the last name specialist, I feel like, for us.
Diglesh? I digress on that, though. Anyway,
yes.
Clay, thank you so much. He goes, thoughts on the latest news for Broncos ownership future? Some just broke 5 hours ago. Listen, Chad, John, I will be the first one to tell you the legalese, the very minute technical details, it kind of goes over my head a little bit. I'm kind of checked out on that. Basically, though, from what I interpret, it's either going to be Brittany or no one in the Bolin family. And right now, John, it's veering toward, again, my opinion, my read on it, it's veering toward an outside sale. We don't know who would be up for purchase for the Broncos, if it's, a Peyton Manning-led group or if it's someone like Bezos or someone like Robert Smith. But from right now, from everything happening in court and all the legal moves, it seems like it's Brittany in the driver's seat in-house or, just turn out of house and sell the franchise to an interested suitor that we do not know.
Yeah, and what I've been hearing on, I think what you're talking about, some of the news that broke was the trustees there was something involved with the trustees and how they were filing their obligations. So that was something that came up recently. Again, this is a very complicated case. We're not talking about something here where it's even $1 million at stake. We're talking about hundreds of $1 million plus assets that are worth even more, multi-hundreds of millions of dollars. So we're talking billions of dollars at stake here. This isn't something that is, even with me taking some business law, it's not something I can even touch. I can't think of how to start and where to start. So nothing from me there. Sorry about that.
Keep it locked in, though, guys. And as news becomes available, we'll be sure to break it down. Be sure to keep it locked to the site. Yes, John?
One thing, I've been talking to some people just in Colorado when I have my Broncos gear on. They'll say to me, who do you think the owner should be? Or I'll ask them. It's amazing how people say they either want a Bolin to stay with it or someone in Colorado. I'll list a few names, and every single time Anschutz comes up, people go, oh, I'll take him. So just something to note.
Clay, it's interesting. Tell us who you want the Broncos. If the Broncos were to, they are going to have a different owner, but do you want Brittany? Do you want Bezos? Do you want someone in the Colorado community? You let us know, but thank you for your support. I want to just shout out Michael Ronquillo. He's so supportive on Twitter every day, John. He's literally tweeting individually at Chad and I at the MHH account saying, great show every night. So, Michael, thank you. And I wanted to highlight what you said. He said, good evening, Zack and John K. Got your full name in there. Great to see you guys today live on Facebook. Mile high salute to you guys. Go Broncos. Thank you. And mile high salute to you as well, Michael. Thank you for all your support and tuning in tonight. Let's keep going through, John, if we can, these supers. And you guys, again, this is the Mile High Mailbag. We're at 33 minutes and counting. It might not be a full hour tonight. Obviously, if it slows down, we'll cut it a little early. So if you have any questions, please fire them in and we'll try to get to them as best we can. We appreciate your service. I got one right here I saw from, I think it's Sam Bam. Yep. Sam Bam again, $5 super. Thank you so much, Sam. He says, if Locke wins the job and the Broncos start off 2-3, is that the point Locke gets benched? How short is Locke's leash? Well, this is a very layered question, Sam. I'll throw it back to you in a second, John. You can't look at it by record unless the record after 5 games is 1-4 or 0-5. I think 2-3, they can justify keeping Locke under center, but how is that 2-3 record comprised? Did they win those games in spite of Locke? Did they lose those 3 games because of Locke? That will determine how long Locke's leash is going forward. It's a game-by-game basis. I don't think, though, on its face surface level, 2-3 is enough to yank Locke. It's still early in the season. They're a game off from 500. A lot can still change. If it's 0-5, though, or 1-4, or in those 5 games at 2-3, he looks just irredeemable and beyond repair, then maybe. But on its face, 2-3 wouldn't be enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. It really depends on how that 2-3 record occurred, really. So this is one of those things where if you tell me he had great games and, he didn't have turnovers, then of course I'm not going to bench him. But if it was turnover after turnover, then we're going to have some issues. So again, it really depends on the actual situation during those games.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Gary Smith, I want to just get this question because Gary's always firing questions.
Yes,
I want to give him some love. He goes, what y'all think will happen if the Broncos go 4-13 this year? It's still interesting. I can't do that in my head yet. 4-13 and 17 games. John, what do you think happens, though, if Broncos go 4-13?
Well, I think obviously coaching, clean house. Yeah. I think you're going to be seeing a lot of different changes for the defensive scheme because, again, you're bringing in a new defensive coordinator. Maybe it's a head coach, defensive minded, as we talked about earlier. We're leaning not towards that. But if there is a defensive head coach, maybe he doesn't use linebackers the same way. All of a sudden, you don't sign Alexander Johnson and Josie Jewell. So it's really is if 4-3 happens, we're talking about different players. We're talking about different coaches. We're talking about probably a different owner probably by that time too, because the fans are going to be so done with it and the Bolins will be too. So I think you're going to see a lot of different changes. If it's 4-13, it's not going to be pretty. Broncos fans are going to check out early as well.
That's a really good point about appeasing the fan base. It might speed up ownership if they have a bad record like that. And pretty much my answer mirrors yours. If they go 4-13, the only face you'll see from this year next year is George Paton's. Everyone on down from him would be gone. That includes the quarterback, that includes the coach, and that includes also staples, veteran older players like Von Miller, who's on a 1-year contract. So it's a total wholesale house cleaning. If they do go 4-13, it would be George Paton just remodeling the entire Broncos franchise and pressing that reset button and hoping for a better result in 2022. I saw a question, though. Thank you, Gary, from Andrew here. Off-ball question, what scenario could we get Lindsey back? Playing Madden 21, he's going to be there forevermore, and he's a beast on here making them all quit. To get Philip Lindsay back, that would have to assume not just the Broncos want him back, but Lindsay would want to come back to Denver after the way they treated him and kicked him to the curb. If I was Philip Lindsay, I wouldn't come back to Denver, even though I had so much success there. I did see, though, it was about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, Cecil Lammy of The Fan put out an article where he kind of speculated about Lindsey's return and how it could happen. And he didn't rule it out. He said it's not within the, out of the realm of possibility that Lindsey could come back. But you have Melvin Gordon for 1 more year. He's very highly paid. You traded up in the 2nd round to draft Javonte Williams. You signed Mike Boone coinciding with Lindsey's departure, and you still have Freeman on the roster in a contract year. So the only way Lindsey would come back, and that's assuming he wants to, John, is if, Gordon's going to be gone, Freeman's going to be gone, Boone's a Jag, and Pookie does not do enough to overwhelm the coaching staff. But even then, you don't invest in a 2nd-round running back only to re-sign the guy that you replaced him for.
Yeah, and I may be the only guy at this time, but I have a lot of hope for Bellamy. As well, actually. Maybe coming on the practice squad this year, maybe he can earn his way up eventually. But I agree. For Lindsey to come back, the only thing I can think of what would be so great for Phillip would be advertisements. He could definitely make money in terms of doing a lot of advertisements. That's a different way to make money versus, going to a different team and maybe taking a little bit more money. But still, you don't want to have. He's not coming back as much as he would probably love it in his heart. It's just there's bad blood.
Yeah, and we can't blame Elway for getting rid of Philip Lindsay. It was a George Payton move, so I think as long as Payton's there's going to be some bad blood with Philip Lindsay. But I wish him the best in Houston, and
Yes.
I do think he'll take advantage of that and become the running back that we all think or thought he can be in Denver. Willie jumping in again, that's the third super. Thank you, Willie, so much, $2 super. We have to win at least 3 out of the first 6 for Locke in terms of Locke keeping his job going forward. And that's why I'm saying, though, John, the first 3 games are the Giants, the Jags, and the Jets. The Jets might have a decent defense, but the Jags are barely there. The Giants are a work in progress. I mean, there's no reason why they can't open. Denver can 3-0 to start the season. That would give the team a lot of confidence. It would give Locke a lot of confidence, and it would, I hate to tell his haters, increase his leash, increase the amount of time he would have under center. But Willie, I do agree with you that in those first 3 games, they can't go worse than 2-1. I mean, tell me if you disagree, John. If they really want to compete this year, if they want to be a 9-10 win team at a minimum, they have to beat the teams they should beat, and that starts in the first three games.
I agree with you 100%. You have to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. If not, those are the plus and minus few games that's going to keep you out. That's going to maybe it's also just you want to start the season feeling good. Let's have for the first time in I don't know when, where we have a quarter of the season, although now it's 17, a first quarter of the season where the Broncos are feeling good. So they're going into the second quarter of the season, going into their bye week, feeling good, able to rest up. They need to come out with these first 3 wins and come out strong.
I want to give Tommy Simmer some love, another guy who's always firing off questions in this chat and doesn't always get the love he deserves. He's asking a fantasy question, Noah Fant or Darren Waller in fantasy value, production versus projected place pick, who wins? I'm a big fantasy guy, so I'll take this to start, John. If it was a keeper league, I think I would bank on Noah Fant's upside and hoping that he gets better coaching staff and hopefully maybe a better quarterback next year. But for right now, Darren Waller is the guy in the I was almost at Oakland again, in the Vegas passing game. I know they have Ruggs, I know they have some receivers, but he is still the guy that makes it all go from Derek Carr. So, I mean, I wouldn't take Darren Waller or Noah Fant or any tight end for that matter super high in the fantasy draft. But for right now, I got to go Darren Waller first. And I agree with the second point you made here, Tommy. I think Waller is the biggest buyer's remorse next year in fantasy. Very well could be. If Henry Ruggs takes a big leap forward, it could take some targets away. But that red zone offense goes through 2 people. One on the ground and Josh Jacobs, another guy through the air and Darren Waller. And until Noah Fant gets going in Denver, we can rely on him as a surefire thing, which might not happen, unfortunately, this year. I got to go Darren Waller.
Yeah, I'm not too big into fantasy football. It's just not something I've always liked it more as just because I feel like I'm rooting against my team at some time. So I'm not a big fan of it. But at the same time, Waller, from my understanding, is going to go a lot earlier. So I feel like you could get a steal in Fant. That's coming from an outsider's perspective who doesn't know fantasy football that well. If Fant is going a few rounds later, you might want to snag him as well. I'm not 100% there. You are the fantasy guy, and that's who we're going to go to for our fantasy questions this year for sure.
I would for sure have Noah Fant on my team. I don't think I would leap to grab him or take him too high or take him over Darren Waller. But if he's there in the middle, the 5th round, the 6th round, if you have a place on your roster and Noah Fant's available, snatch him up on the off chance he gets good quarterbacking, good play calling. That's a Pro Bowler waiting to happen.
One question for you, for those that have flexes, what are your thoughts on the 2 tight end kind of model where you have 2 tight end? You don't like that? Not for you?
A flex should be a receiver or a running back. I don't really. But
you have to grab 2 premium tight ends. You have to get the best of the best. So you're talking Kittle, or Kelsey. Exactly. So you're talking 2 of the best tight ends that you're basically saying that's how I'm going to win my season.
It's such a fleeting position, though, because you name those guys, but who's after the top 5 or 6 in the NFL? It's not like a running back. The list just falls off. So my flex guys were always receivers or running backs. Those guys win the league for me. But in speaking of the league, Willie hopping in again. Willie, you are the man. Speaking of fantasy, Willie says, put me on the list. John, we'll get you down. We have a running list. And guys, again, if you don't know, we started doing this, I believe it was last year or the year before, but we have an annual MHH Fantasy Football League, one league, platform to be determined, but where it's looking like a paid league this year, paid entry. It ups the ante. It reduces people who just set their lineup once and walk away and never look at it again. It should be competitive. And again, call to action. Anyone who wants in on the league, let us know. We will get your name down. Willie, we got you down, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, definitely. And let's get Travis. We got Willie. We're good. We got him on the list. I added him. So we're good with you, Willie. And, of course, we'll get you in there. So appreciate you, Willie, as always. I got Travis, who's usually giving us superstars. I know some things have been going on for you personally in your life, so hope things are getting a little better. I know it's going to take time, obviously. But Travis saying, if we get a new coach, it would be great to get Eric Bieniemy. He's a former Colorado Buffalo, and it would be great to beat the Chiefs with him. What are your thoughts on Bieniemy?
That's another guy. I usually name him among the spiel of future coaches in the NFL, and I omitted him this time. But he's definitely an option. And the only reason I omitted him though is, will Kansas City ultimately allow him to get away? Is he not going to take over for Reed when he departs? Is he not the future? Kind of like McDaniels out there in New England. But secondly, I don't think it's a racial thing, but you have to wonder why he's still a coordinator. You have to wonder, what is the holdup where it's at least 2 coaching cycles now, and the guy who's had championship success with Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in football, for my money, he can't get his own head coaching job. So you have to wonder, is he a bad interviewer? That's the rumor out there. He can't interview well. Is it something where teams don't believe that he's the guy running things, that it's a product of Mahomes' magic and Reed's prowess? I don't know, but if he's legit, as I think he is, and I think you think he is, John, I would love for him to stay home in Colorado, his stomping grounds, and coach the Broncos and get the most out of the next quarterback, whoever that may be.
Yeah, I would love for him to come back to be a part of Colorado again in our culture. However, I just don't see it happening, just because of some of the rumors of him not being a great, someone to interview. So if someone comes in and interviews and says, "This is how I'm going to do it," and lays back and doesn't, do anything beyond that, that's really hard for you to get inside track versus someone else who interviews well and also has that background that you see from Bieniemy. So I don't know what the situation is with him, but I think as years go on, you can't deny that he's doing a fantastic job. And if it's not what's happening with as you were talking about the Patriots and getting a new coach kind of set up for the future, I don't see why he would stay this long and not take a head coaching job.
And, to your point as well, and my counterpoint is always, well, he might not interview well, but who interviewed really well? Vance Joseph. And he, that didn't work out. So you can't judge a coach based on how they interview. You have to judge them on the X's and O's. And listen, I don't want a guy who's great with the media. I don't want a guy who's, voracious and verbose. I try to combine those words, didn't work out too well. I want a guy who may be a little ornery, maybe a little weird, maybe a little bit of an a-hole with the media, but that guy is going to win you ball games. That guy is going to coach up an offense. If he can do that, I don't care how he interviews. Just show me the results. But our pal, hopping in here, I want to get to this question to piggyback off our coaching discussion. Thank you for your question. He goes, you guys think they will keep Mike Munchak if they fire the coaches? John, there's a list on half of my one hand of coaches the Broncos would consider keeping if they were to clean house, which they will if they have a record, anything less than 9-8 or so. Mike Munchak and Bill Kollar and maybe Reggie Herring are 3 guys I could see the Broncos keeping around, but there's no guarantee. If George Payton can say, listen, you're all part of the last regime. You were all brought in with Vic Fangio, with John Elway. It preceded my time here. You got to go, Mike. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, those were the names I was thinking of. So Mike Munchak is the guy, man, on any football team, you have to want him as your offensive line coach. He improved Garrett Bowles by being able to speak to him in the way Garrett Bowles needed to learn. So he can do some great things with any offensive lineman. I think he's a person you want to keep, as well as Kollar, just because, again, Kollar is great what he does with the work with the defense. I don't know if they would say, you were a part of Fangio with the pass. Maybe it's just time to let the pass die. But Mike Munchak is number one on the list of you got to you gotta try to keep him. He's just too valuable. As been speaking about with Alex Gibbs, how he did so many tremendous things for the Broncos, led them to 2,000-yard rushers, led them to Super Bowls, led them all those different things. Munchak is the new kind of era, even though he's kind of at the end of his career, that he was the new era afterwards of that kind of O-line coach.
And a name that I forgot about, that's true. Dylan brought it up and Albert Knoppers brought it up. Zack Azzanni, Broncos receivers coach. That's another great shout as well. He could be a guy you retain. But to the same point about Mike Munchak, again, it takes two to tango. Who's to say if there's a coaching change, if there's a regime change, they can maybe look for opportunities elsewhere in the NFL. Maybe Azzanni could be a coordinator at some other team. Maybe he can get a receiver gig elsewhere. I mean, you have to wonder what they want to do at this stage of their careers. Do they want to go through a rebuild in Denver, or would they want to latch on with a team that has a better chance of winning right now? But that's a good shout out for Azzanni. Great coach, and the Broncos are lucky to have him.
Yeah, Azzanni, great coach. I follow him just on, Twitter. He's a great guy to follow, very nice. But I also worry, hey, if he doesn't do well this year and you see Hamler have drops, Judy have drops, just saying maybe that he doesn't end up staying here. I think he can correct all that, though.
Zebulon hopping in, the overlord of the Facebook star universe. We appreciate you as always, Zebulon, Omega, Kevin, Lind, for your stars and your generosity. We appreciate you. A couple more questions, guys. We just hit the 50-minute mark, and like I said, we're keeping this one a little tight tonight with Chad on the road. But I saw a question from Sam Bam. This speaks to me personally because, as most of you know, I do dabble in covering the Cowboys, unfortunately. So Sam Bam asked, do you think Jason Garrett would get some consideration? He had some decent seasons with the Cowboys and was handcuffed by Jerry Jones, I think. He really, I was only around for the last year of the Garrett, tenure in Dallas, but he wasn't that handcuffed. He's given just an elite, amazing offense, and he's an offensive-minded guy, and he is so conservative sometimes, and he is so vanilla sometimes, and he is so gutless sometimes. Who does that sound like? Sounds like Pat Shurmur. So, no, and Garrett didn't do much last year in New York. I mean, he was what he was. He was a yes man. He was a good rah-rah guy. You will not find a player that has one bad word about Jason Garrett. But kind of like Vance Joseph, you need more than that. Show me the medal. Show me the production. He's a has-been in NFL terms, and I want nothing to do with a retread coach, Sam Bam. If or when the Broncos fire Vic Fangio, which very well could happen in the next, 5-6 months, it has to be, please, Broncos gods, please, George Payton, it has to be a younger offensive mind. Kellen Moore, Greg Roman, Brian Daboll, I do not care, but stay the hell away from Jason Garrett.
Yeah, I wasn't even that close to the Cowboys when it comes to the Garrett era either, really. But for me, I always enjoyed when he stayed around because it gave me a laugh. For me, it was one of those things where I never was a big Cowboys fan. So for me, it was always very delightful seeing Jason Garrett coming in for another season. It made me feel good for the NFC East because I actually am a Giants fan. For my NFC team, if I were to pick, it's the Giants, oddly enough. So, for me, nothing to do with Garrett. There's no reason, even with some decent years, they didn't win playoff games. They didn't win.
Exactly. It's what have you done for me lately? It's, don't talk about it, be about it. And the Cowboys were way too talented with too good of an offense not to win playoff games, and that's ultimately what got Jason Garrett fired. But the Cowboys' mistake, John, is a mistake I don't want the Broncos to make. What direction did they go in after Garrett? They hired an older retread coach in Mike McCarthy, and you saw what happened last year, even with Dak Prescott's injury. So the Broncos can't make the same mistake. If or when they fire Fangio, it has to be a younger guy coming up through the ranks. They have to find the next Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, etc. That's how you win in the NFL. We're going to take one more of those, John, that I saw in case you see another one here. I saw one from Andrew. This is almost the opposite point of the discussion we were having. Andrew asked, if everything goes to plan and we hit the playoffs, do we keep all the coaching staff, trade for a tackle and try again? If they make the playoffs, they're not going to let Fangio linger. I don't know how many years he'd have left on his contract, 1 or 2, but I would see maybe a 1-year extension to reward Fangio for getting the Broncos back over the hump and back to the playoffs. Yeah, if they made the playoffs, it would be because not the defense so much. We all know they're going to be good. If the Broncos make the playoffs, it's because the offense took a step. That would mean they would probably retain either Bridgewater or Drew Lock and Pat Shurmur and Mike Shula, keep the band back together. Why would you get rid of them? If you make the playoffs, why would you undo the coaching staff? It would be the affirmation and the confirmation in George Payton's mind that all they needed was continuity, that maybe just stay with the program and trust the process brings results. So if they make the playoffs, if they go 9-8, 10-7, whatever, they're going to bring everyone back and try to keep that going into 2022. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. When it comes to the coaches, they're going to want to retain all of them, unless someone all of a sudden sees one of these Broncos coaches and sees them taking a jump. Maybe you want to take a wide receivers coach, and maybe it's time to bring him in to be your offensive coordinator. You have a good faith in him. That's the only way I could see it breaking up.
Great point.
With the coaching staff if the playoff run is done and the team really is consistent. When it comes for training for a tackle and trying that again, really hate to say this, we have to wait until the draft. We have to see who's available in the draft and how the Broncos are going to do that. The Broncos could be happy with a second round tackle and someone else for the offense. I'm not quite sure. I don't want to think that far ahead because we're not even at the beginning of the college football season. So maybe you trade for a tackle. Maybe you're speaking about trading up for a tackle to make sure you get a really good, solid tackle for years to come. So a lot of different possibilities that could happen on that tackle position and that line.
John, I'm with you 1,000,000,000% on both counts there. We just talked about Zach Azzanni. If Sutton comes back strong, Jerry Jeudy breaks out, KJ Hamler, Zach Azzanni will get coordinating opportunities. So you're right. If someone takes a leap, they could get opportunities elsewhere. But if they win and the stars align, they'll look to bring everyone back. In terms of a tackle, though, please just draft one. Stop wasting time with other teams' garbage. Stop wasting time with veteran holdovers like DeMar Dotson and Cameron Fleming. Just draft the guy. You hit on Garrett Bowles now, and you want a guy you can sustain. And if you draft a guy who you hit on, you have your left guard of the future, you have your center of the future, your left tackle of the future, and your right guard of the future. It would all be set in front of you. And that's where I think the Broncos will go into next offseason. God willing, that's their biggest weakness, John. If that's their biggest weakness, not quarterback or any other position, the Broncos are in a good spot. But I think they should try to draft the guy in rounds 1, 2, 3, whatever, and not keep relying on a veteran holdover. I did see, though, before we get out of here, one more.
Go ahead. Let's grab
one
it.
more. It's a really good question that I want to broach before we hop off. It's from Brian Armois. Thank you, Brian. Good to see you as well. Thank you for your question. Do you think Pookie, Javonte Williams, should start at running back? Should he start? Well, based on ceiling and based on potential and based on hopes, then yeah. But based on right now, he's still a rookie. He's still never taken one NFL snap, and you have a former Pro Bowler ahead of him in Melvin Merlot Gordon, who's getting paid $8 million, more than half of which is guaranteed. So should he start at running back eventually? And I think by midseason, if not way sooner, maybe even week 1, he will be taking over the RB1 mantle, but you can't justify paying a guy $8 million and then not even giving him a chance to start. So initially, you're going to have Melvin and then you're going to have Javonte, but it might not last for long. It's a matter of when, not if, John, Pookie takes over for Melvin.
Yeah, I have the same feeling. Depends on when he's going to take over. But until then, you use Melvin Gordon as hard as you can.
Yes.
You want to have him taking the blunt of these hits and all those different early season grinding kind of plays. So then if the Broncos do make it to the playoffs, all of a sudden you have Javonte Williams ready to go. And how great is that? So just, for me, it just makes a lot of sense, both for the future and, for saving Williams for the future, also for the possibility of the playoffs this year.
John's talking playoffs got me excited. But Willie, $5 super. Willie, you are the man. You are amazing. Thank you. And we didn't miss it. I saw your other comment. Willie says, how many times do I have to super for John to get his own show? I mean, we're not going to put a limit on that, Willie, and wink, wink. But it's we have things in the cooker. We have our different hands and different pies, and we're going to take care of John. Don't worry.
Yeah, I feel like things are definitely starting to move, and after a few good podcasts, I felt like we're definitely moving in a positive direction, Willie. So don't worry about it.
Speaking of that positive direction, we're going to take a step backward right now and talk about the Broncos starting quarterback. John, we're going to both answer, you and I, on 3. We're going to give our prediction as to who we think the Broncos week 1 quarterback will be, okay? 1, 2, 3. Drew Lock. There you go, Mike. There you have it. We think as of right now, July 15th, a lot can change and a lot might change between now and week 1. We think right now, Drew Lock will be under center. Not Bridgewater, not Aaron, not Deshaun. Drew Lock under center week 1. If we're wrong, we'll get on here and say we're wrong. I'll look at you deadpan in the camera in a minute. But right now on July 15th, 7:12 p.m. Mountain Time, we feel very confident. I think, though, here's one question from a name that I don't recognize, Alexander Emmerd. We appreciate you hopping in, and welcome if it's your first time viewing. Alexander asks, Sutton or Judy as the primary target by midseason? What say you, John?
For me, I hate to say as primary target, I think it's going to be Sutton still. I think Judy, for me, this is hard because Sutton's going to do different things than Judy's going to do. So to say that there's a primary target, I don't really see it that way. I see it as Judy's going to open the deep part of the field for Sutton, and that's going to be the same thing that Sutton's going to do for Judy. However, if we're just talking about who gets the most targets, actually, I think Judy will get more targets. Sutton will get more yards, though, in the end.
It's a really important distinction because I think Judy will get more targets, but Sutton will have more receptions. And there's a difference there. I mean, Jerry Jeudy will get peppered. He's going to be the playmaker, but Courtland Sutton is going to be old reliable for whatever quarterback is under center. Throw it up and he'll get it, or if not, he'll draw a penalty. I think we see the top 10, baby Megatron Courtland Sutton coming back. And then you pair that talent, John, with no matter who's under center, with Jerry Jeudy, with KJ Hamler, with Tim Patrick, with Noah Fant, with Alberto, with Pookie Williams, with Melvin Gordon. How do you stop them all? How do you slow this offense down if they all get on the same page and perform as a cohesive unit? It's going to be fun to watch, but I'm right there with you. To start, Sutton had tremendous chemistry. I don't know if you guys forgot, if you have amnesia, go back to 2019 and watch some of those 4-1, the record that Locke put together. Sutton was a big reason as to why. So they have connection already. And Jerry Jeudy, if he gets his hands in order, if he can catch passes, which he's done to his credit this offseason in the OTAs and minicamp practices, it's really not going to matter one way or the other. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, they're all going to eat. And it's going to be fun to watch them pig out.
And as Andrew's saying here, Tim Tippy Toe Patrick, or Toe Tap Patrick,
Timmy Toe Taps.
Tippy Toes, whatever you want to go with. I mean, no matter what, there's going to be playmakers all over the field. Let's get it done. The targets should be dispersed pretty evenly. I'm excited.
We're getting some recommendations in this chat for Paxton Lynch and Brock Osweiler to be the Broncos starting quarterback. So on that note, guys, we're going to bounce out of the Huddle Up podcast for tonight. Thank you all for tuning in with us. It was a blast. And John, an hour went by and literally for me felt like 5 minutes.
It did.
So I appreciate you filling in tonight, sir. Thank you for holding it down.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was great speaking to everyone, as always. I'll see you on Saturday, but I'll be in the podcast, as always, in the back end for tomorrow for the Dove Valley Deep Divers with Eric and Lance. So look forward to seeing you tomorrow as well.
Yeah, guys, the Huddle Up podcast, we are off until Sunday night, but Chad and I will be back in the saddle Sunday night, 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. In the meantime, as John said, tomorrow, Dove Valley Deep Divers, Saturday night, Mile High Insiders, and you'll have John there filling in aside from Luke Patterson. Sunday, Kelberman's Corner, 2 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Mountain Time, Kim Becker and myself. Subscribe if you haven't already for that, but be sure, guys, if you haven't, please do this. Follow the podcast on Twitter at HuddleUpPod. Follow the main mother account, however you want to call it, at Mile High Huddle. You can follow the Beast on Twitter at John K. MHH. You can follow myself on Twitter at Kelberman NFL. Also follow Chad Jensen on Twitter at Chad N. Jensen. Go to Facebook.com, guys, if you haven't already. Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Like the page, follow the page. Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Big blue button, like I said. Broncos Book Club, Trickle Zone, Kelberman's Corner, more to come. John's getting a show. You got to get in on this. I promise you, you're going to love it. It's worth every penny. Trust me on that. It's going to be amazing. Also, huddleuppod.com and get your swag, get yourself a hat, shirt, etc., coffee mug, more to come on that front as well. But if you can't do any of those things, again, we understand, we sympathize. We ask you these 3 things, though. Subscribe, like, and share. See how easy that is, John? I mean, it takes 3 clicks individually, and you can do all those things and help us out tremendously, and we love and appreciate you for it. That being said, though, we are off until Sunday night. The Huddle Up Podcast is. We'll see you then. John, any last words for our audience tonight?
Nothing. Just really enjoyed our time together, and we'll see you soon.
See you guys. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.